So I saw Isabella Strayhand share her story, because I know she experienced similar to what I'm experiencing. I wanted to document all of this to kind of look back on and occupy me as well, while I'm in and out of the hospital, and gives me something to do in the hospital too. So I want to start recording. From what I believe, I think the cancer started to come in February, or that's when I started getting symptoms. And it's not symptoms that are very noticeable. I started getting really tired, or I'd been tired for a few months since I had her, but we all thought it was just because I was lazy, or that just, my daughter made me tired, from being a mom. But it was fatigue. I could fall asleep anywhere. I was always wanting to sleep. February is whenever I got the flu, and I went to the hospital because I felt really bad. And when I was in the hospital, she wanted to keep me. She asked if she could keep me and run more tests. But I was well, if it's just a flu, I'm just gonna go home. And I went home. The flu lasted for April till April. So I went into the hospital again. So I went to the hospital that morning. And it was a really long process. They eventually diagnosed me with COVID and a few infections that I did not know I had, and then sepsis, which is another not so good infection, I think, and pneumonia. So it explained why I was having a hard time breathing and why I was so sick. But then they kept me there because they wanted me to see other doctors, meaning oncologists and stuff, because they took out my blood. Then I was there for hours, and somebody had to come for my sister and my daughter. And I remember being there, and then my daughter leaving the room, and I was I had a feeling that something wasn't right. So I wanted to say bye to her, give her a hug, a big hug and a kiss, because I something was telling me that I should, because I just had a bad feeling about my health and everything. Keep in mind that was the last time I saw her for weeks. So I should have given her a big hug and kiss. So yeah, I got in, and right away they admitted me. So after I went in, I never came back home. I didn't have clothes, I didn't have anything with me, not a wallet, not a purse. So I even lost my shoes during the whole thing. I had no idea where my shoes went. But that first few days that I was there, I was on oxygen because I was having a hard time breathing. They didn't let me lay down, because every time I laid down on my back, I couldn't breathe. So I had to sleep for a few days sitting up. And it ended up being AML, which is acute myeloid leukemia. From what I read about it, it's rare, it's pretty aggressive, and it's a blood cancer. The more aggressive the chemo is, the more symptoms you do get. And I had the one that was pretty aggressive. I was on 2 or 3 chemos at the same time, and when you're on chemo, you can't be unplugged from the IV. Every time a bag runs out, right away they're gonna start the other one. So I'm stuck on a wire for, I believe it was a week or maybe 10 days. So I couldn't shower. So after my chemo was done, I was something they call neutropenic, where I basically had no healthy cells, and I had no bad cells in my body, cancer cells, and nothing. So that means I had no immune system. I was locked in a room, not wanting to see anybody because I was really scared of getting sick. Ended up getting sick anyway. I had, after chemo, I had fevers, I had nausea, I was throwing up, got a few infections because my immune system was gone. My skin wasn't great. And then, yeah, they were, like, their main concern was bringing the fevers down, and because they could cause seizures. So that was probably the worst week ever. So finally, after a few weeks, I randomly, like, my doctor woke me up and was like, you can go home, and I got a biopsy done, my 3rd biopsy, and I went home, which was insane to even, like, experience driving again and seeing my daughter again. Like, that was insane. So yeah, now I am at a place where my 3rd biopsy showed a few cancer cells and seems to be growing aggressively again. So I have to go back for chemo in a few days now, a week and a few days. Thankfully, the chemo that I'm getting is kind of a maintenance chemo. It's not as aggressive as my first chemo, since I already kind of, like, killed most of those cells. So it's gonna be less aggressive, hopefully get less symptoms. But I am excited to just kind of get this out of the way and feel better again. Get some rest while I'm there.